All right. Hello and welcome, Just a Family. I am your host, Melissa Krechler, and you are watching Giving You Something to Talk About Live TV. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about, sorry, I'm having a blonde moment right now. Apparently, it's one of those days. We're talking about how to really help. My guest host and I today, when we were doing the pre-screening intro, we were talking about how to truly help people and how not to put ourselves in what we're helping. So in that sense, I'm going to hand it over to our sponsor for today, as well as our guest host. And speaking of sponsorship, you have a Pinterest checklist. So please tell us about that once you are done introducing yourself.
So I'm Jen Kedrie. I'm a former nutritionist turned Pinterest manager for established coaches. And the Pinterest checklist is to get you started. If you don't have a business profile on Pinterest, you really should. It's super helpful, and the checklist will get you started.
I don't. So I think we're going to have to talk about that once we're done the show, because I don't have one. And that's not a good thing. All right. So today we're talking about helping, not helping. And do you think that it's a problem in society now when we try to help people? Or one of the things, I'm going to start off the episode weird. I'm going to start off the episode with a complaint, actually, about helping. I have watched, sorry, I'm sharing while I'm doing this, so I apologize to everybody who thinks I'm not paying attention. I am. I'm sorry. I've watched YouTube videos, Facebook videos, TikTok videos, Instagram reels of people going through and walking down the street and recording themselves going up to homeless people. And they're recording themselves going up to these homeless people and giving them like $1,000. Excuse me. Now, I can't name names because I don't know exactly who it is, but I've actually heard that some of these people will go back and take the money back once they're done recording. Oh. So, and then how many people, and I'm not saying that we can't take credit for what we do. We can absolutely take credit if it makes it, if we feel good for going out and helping the less fortunate or helping somebody in any way, shape, or form, like this show even, right? This show, the main premise of the show is self-help, to help people. And it's okay to take credit in that, and it's okay to take pride in that, but everything's recorded now. Everything's recorded now. And I almost think that, how do we trust when people are actually helping people genuinely? What do you think of that?
You know, I've seen those videos where they show somebody randomly walking up. I've seen somebody buy somebody a pair of sneakers, and then the Amazon guy, because it's in a major city, will come and deliver them. But I never heard that they took the money back, the people that give the money. There's a part of me that says it's an innate feeling, right? Maybe that's not the right term, but it's a feeling you get when you help people, and videotaping that doesn't make it feel better or worse. So I don't understand why you have to publicly pat yourself on the back that you did this great deed. You know, sometimes, and I'm not saying you shouldn't get credit for it, like you mentioned, but to put it out there just for the publicity, as opposed to just because you truly, really just want to help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a question that I face, and it could completely be hearsay, right? It might just be something that's, a rumor that's flying through the internet, because we all know social media, rumors are everywhere. But at the same time, it is something to think about. Are they actually, is what we're seeing on TV and in the news and on these influencers' pages, is it authentic? Is it real? I know I was talking to my husband the other day, and I was talking about when this show picks up, when there's money coming in from the show, because we do have sponsors. If there's extra from the show, or we get some sort of big deal for a sponsor, I want to pick and choose different charities and corporations to give back to. I've already had a couple of my guests on the show where they have nonprofits, and I'll be giving my time towards that. But I don't say that as a pat on the back. I say that because I don't need to broadcast that. I'm not going to broadcast that all over social media. I'm not going to take video of it or pictures of it. I'm not going to splash all over my Facebook. Look what I did today. I will if I go get my nails done, because I like getting my nails done. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, look, right? But that's something I enjoy, not something that I need to be recognized outside of something that gives me pleasure.
I completely understand. And I completely agree. Like, I am a person, when it comes to, like, I truly can be the person who will give you the shirt off my back. Like, if you said you like something, if it's something I can, and depending on this, the sentimental value to me, I'm going to be like, oh, here, do you want this? Oh, just take it, because I enjoy making people happy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give people that spark, because, in my life and in like my experience, I look at things that have happened in the world, and the depression rate is really high. And taking, outside of anything that has recently transpired in the world, I just think that people are looking for people to just be nice and kind where it's warranted. Right.
No, I completely agree. I do. I completely agree. There needs to be an emotional component that you receive, not that you're giving to other people, not that you're expecting everybody to go, oh, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. No, I genuinely want to help this person. I genuinely want to feel like I'm contributing to society, to a cause that makes me feel good. If I just wanted to be rich and famous, I wouldn't have started a self-help show. I don't like being on camera, right? I don't like being on camera. I don't like pictures, and I don't like hearing my own voice. I started this show because I had a genuine passion to help people. And I wanted to share those messages of self-help, of how to have healthy communications, how to actually help people and not hinder them, which is the topic of this episode, right? Is, are you actually helping, or are you hindering? And I think a lot of the time we think we're helping and our intention is to help, but we may not be helping in a way that is actually helping the person we're helping. And that's why we're doing this episode today. So what do you think the difference is between helping and hindering? What's your big difference between those two?
I think sometimes it's giving help, but when that help enables someone, you're not really helping them. So you think you're helping them, but at the end result is really enabling them, because they're not changing to move forward in their life. And sometimes we need to help them just enough to kind of give them that spark or light that fire to move forward. And maybe it's to try something else or leave behind what they're doing because it's not serving them. But you can't do everything for everybody, because at some point you have to, even if it's just help them to help themselves. I think sometimes, especially as a parent, I get too caught up in trying to do everything for them, thinking that that's the better way. But in reality, if I just make sure that they understand that I'm there to support them and I'm here if you need me, this is my advice, but I want you to do something that makes you happy. I want you to make a choice, because it is ultimately your choice, as long as it's one that's going to keep you safe and healthy and, not get into trouble, you hope.
Yeah. And I love that, because it is true. As I just was writing down notes of things that I wanted to touch on that you were talking about. Number one is enabling. When you think that you're helping somebody, are you enabling them? Are you giving them the tools and techniques that they could learn to better their own lives? Are you doing everything for them? As mothers, that's huge for us. I know my son's grandparents, I was working 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. By the time I would come home, he would be so worn out, he'd eat dinner and go to sleep. So they would do his homework with him. They weren't doing his homework with him. They were doing his homework for him. And he was in very low grades and very far behind at that point because they were doing it for him. So they were enabling him. They thought they were helping him, but in essence, they really weren't. They were doing everything for them. So as parents, and you and I are both parents, we both have adults. I have two younger ones, but I also have two adults. And the question does become, throughout their lives, how many things are we teaching them to actually do for themselves? Like my son, I'm going to use my son as an example. He's 20 this year. He just bought another car. And I'm going to say another car because this is like his fifth car in a year. And he just bought a car, and we kept telling him, don't, you need to get them checked before you buy them. You need to get them checked. My husband is a manager of a mechanic shop. He says, bring it here before you buy it. And he didn't listen. So we brought it over, and he says, what do you think of the car? I said, I don't really care. And he says, well, what do you mean? Like, don't you have an opinion? And I said, no. He said, no motherly advice. I'm like, here's your motherly advice. I said, I don't care what the car looks like. I don't care how fast it goes. I don't care what condition it's in. I just want it safe. That's all I care about. I want you to have a safe, reliable vehicle. I don't care what it looks like. Buy whatever you want, but I want it safe. And he's like, awesome. I said, but understand that you need to, if you buy a lemon, you're going to have to deal with it. Right. And so instead of going out and doing all that for him and saying, here, I'll help you choose, I'll pick the right one for you. And then him being unhappy with what I'm choosing. Now he's learning. He's like, oh, maybe I should have listened to mom. But with kids, we have to let them grow. We have to let them learn at their own pace.
I agree. Because I think sometimes something you said is that sometimes you have to let them do things, and we learn from our mistakes. And then they can turn to you and say, you know what, next time you don't have to take my advice. And it's in your head to help you make a better decision. It doesn't have to be my decision. And I don't want to make decisions for you all the time, but I'll give you my opinion, and it's for you to take with it what you want, because mistakes are always going to happen. And let's make mistakes when we're young, because we can fix those. It's much easier to fix mistakes from a younger perspective. But all mistakes, I think, are fixable for the most part.
Yes, me too. So another one that I wanted to mention was helping, but not in the way somebody needs. So we can relate this to children. We can relate this to our friends and family, our loved ones, anybody in our circle, or even outside of our circle. We can have a great intention to help somebody and have that pure intention that you want to help. And then you go to help that person, but that's not what they need, or that's not what they want, or that's actually making it harder for them. Because, so let's say natural disasters as an example, for anybody watching, catching the replay, natural disasters. So if a natural disaster happens, they give you a list of what they're looking for. This is what I need. This is what these people need. They give you a list, right? If you deviate off that list, and let's say none of them have babies, let's say none of the people who need help have young babies, but everybody says, oh, I'm going to buy you diapers and baby wipes and formula and all this. You've just now given them nothing that they can use, right? You feel great, but they now feel awkward and horrible because you've now wasted your money on something they can't use, right? That goes with everybody, even your loved ones and your friends and family. If they need help, ask them how they need help. What do you need from me? If they don't know, right? Because kids, they don't always know what they need. Give them options. Say, I can help you this way. I can help you this way. I can help you this way. What do you feel would benefit you? Because if you have a situation that has many different roads or multiple roads, you're instinctively going to try to fix it or try to help your way.
Exactly. I agree.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think sometimes when people ask, depending on the person, they're not necessarily asking for you to do something. They just want to know that you're going to support them. And you don't have to do for them, and you might just say, hey, look, whatever you choose, I will support you. And if you have anything or need any other questions answered, I'm here for you no matter what. You don't necessarily have to always dive in and, helicopter around. And exactly, taking control, I think sometimes is where things get lost. And when you brought up like disaster relief and things like that, a lot of times people don't want to give money. And I don't know why, because sometimes that really is what helps, because just because they want certain foods, like things, nobody wants I pay attention to now when I donate. I want to make sure it's useful and that it's something that somebody else could use. Just because I don't want it anymore, it doesn't mean somebody else wants it or that somebody else could use it. And I think that people get wrapped up. You hear these stories, how they have piles and piles of clothes, you know what I mean? And so that really, sometimes that's not what's helpful. And I think following what they've put on the list is so much more important, as to paying attention, as like you said, as to what they truly need, because that's the best way to help and support.
Yeah. That's, and like I said, it's such a huge topic, because it goes in every situation, as a parent, as a friend, as somebody dealing with addiction, right? If you're a family member or a friend of somebody who's an addict or going through a hard time, your way of helping is not always that what they need. And we do tend to put that. I know a child, and I know a child that I watched grow up, and their parent controlled everything. And I mean everything. They controlled everything. This child is now an adult and feels no control. At 18, at not even 18, but after 18, there's no control. There's no freedom. There's no sense of self or identity, because everything, and I mean everything, was controlled.
So their critical thinking wasn't even honed, because they can't
problem solving, critical thinking, decision making, right? So now they're like, I don't know. I don't know, right? But even just not necessarily the critical thinking or the problem, but just even the identity, your sense of identity. If somebody does everything for you and makes all your decisions for you, they don't give you the ability to create your own identity and say, oh, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and you don't learn those things if you don't try them. Right? It's like food. We tell our kids, you have to try it at least once. You need to try it at least once, right? And then they're like, well, I don't like it. I'm like,
I was the kid who, my mother never made me try anything. My mother was never a big vegetable eater, and I now am. And I remember somebody tried to get me to try like some sort of a chip, and I was just like, I don't want to try it. And they were like, why? I said, because I like enough crap. Like, I like enough junk food. But I think when you're forced to keep trying something, and I've also come to, if I've tried it once, because people are like, oh, you're such a picky eater. And if I've tried it once, why do I have to try it again? I don't like it.
Exactly. Yep. or if you like, and it's okay to be picky. And just a segue,
it's particular. I'm particular. I'm not picky.
So we have Subway, and I'm assuming in the States you have Subway too, yes. Right? Okay. Yes. So we have Subway. I go to Subway and I'll order something. My husband's like, you're picky. I'm like, no, I just like it a certain way.
I want it the way I want it, and especially if I'm paying for it.
Yeah. And like, I'm not horrible. I'm picky on foods that I eat. Not all of them, but I don't like seafood. I'll eat shrimp every so often. I'll eat lobster very rarely, but I'm not a seafood eater. And they're like, oh, try it. I'm like, no, there's certain foods that just gross me out at the thought of eating them, that I don't want to try them. Like calamari. My husband loves calamari. And I'm like, no, I know what it is. I don't want to know. Like, I just don't even want to touch it. No.
That's okay.
My son tried it. We forced my son, because he was all three of my children are like very picky eaters. It was either hot dogs, chicken nuggets, French fries, or whatever. Right. And I'm like, no, you need to try different food. My son is for the most part a healthy eater now. And he'll try anything once. So he sent me a picture of calamari the other day. I'm like, what is that? I knew what it was, but I was like, what is that? He's like, squid. I'm like, have you eaten it? He's like, yeah, I tried it. I said, did you like it? He goes, no. I'm like, yeah. Like, but that's the thing. I won't eat mushrooms at all. Do not like them. Can't stand the smell of them. Don't like how they're made. Won't touch mushrooms. My husband loves mushrooms. So every so often I'll buy them. I'll suck it up and peel them and slice, do whatever. But my son won't eat them. My daughters won't try them. So we do influence in some ways. I always encourage, hey, try them. Like, you never know. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean you're not going to like it. But that's having an open mind and allowing your children to take that step and say, okay, I got this. I'm going to try it. If you don't like it, spit it out.
And they know, and then it gives them the ability to know that they like or dislike something and just stick with it. It's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's kind of a choice, right?
Oh.
They get that choice. Girls, sorry, it's spring break. Both my daughters are home. Can you just close my door a little bit more or stay out downstairs or something? Keep opening and shutting their door. It's my daughter's room.
I don't hear it.
From my room. Yeah. Just, I figured I'd be like, shh. They're driving me nuts this week. I can't wait for school next week. Oh, thank you. Cute. Not all the way, love you too. Not all the way because of the cats, though. Take my purse off. Oh, thanks. Put it on the bed. Oh, okay. Love you. Bye.
Oh.
Okay, shut your door then. I'm gonna lock the cat in here. See, this is the problem. She's gonna lock the cat in here, and then the cat's gonna. Well, he's gonna lie down, so we're all good. Okay. I think intentions. People pleasing is another one. Helping when you don't want to help. Have you ever helped to, like, you feel forced to help and you're like, I don't wanna. Like, I don't want. I feel like a kid. I'm just like, no, I don't want. My husband, he'll be like, honey. I'll be like, what? He's like, come here. I'm like, no, I don't want to. And I'll whine and complain. But I will obviously get up. Go ahead.
So my mom lives with us, and so she has like her own apartment downstairs, and she's considering she never grew up with things being instantaneous. She clicks the buttons a lot. And then of course things get screwed up. So the TV is screwed up, and I've had to go down and fix it numerous times. And when I was like clearly annoyed, and she was like, I don't want to know why you're mad at me. I'm like, look, I had to basically say, look, it's okay. It's human nature to be annoyed that you've asked me the same thing numerous times. I said, because you get annoyed at people when they ask you the same thing over and over and over again. It's just human nature. We've had to fix this 5-6 times in the last 2 weeks. I'm like, what did you hit? Fixing the button. I'm always fixing the TV. I didn't hit anything.
Helping people who don't want help. I find the older generation, not all, and every time I do this, no judgment, okay? I'm very non-judgmental, but I find that some of the older generation, they don't even want to learn, right? We have tablets, we have smartphones, we have, the smart TVs, all of these gaming equipment, right? And you sit there and like, they don't even want to learn. But then every little while it's, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? It's like, I did that last week. Yeah, like you said, right? Like, I've done this 6 times. Didn't I teach you how to do that?
Well, I will, in her defense, like, it's through like I have to put in my password, and then I have to go to my phone and get a code. So I can't give her the password because it's irrelevant. It still has to come to me for me to do something else. I have to be here.
Yeah.
So that was my trying to help somebody that I'll continuously have to help. I'm asking my aunt, I'm like, can you help me fix this permanently? Is there a way to let this not happen anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So what else do you think is an issue with helping?
Um, I think not recognizing if somebody's trying to, let's say, better themselves, and maybe they need support for just environmental support in order to be helped. I don't think it's a problem, but I think I'm going to use somebody I know, their husband or ex-husband definitely had problems with drinking. And like I've been around this situation. So, but she was still drinking in front of him, like around him. And to me, the best support you can give to somebody is for you to stop drinking, because if they truly have a problem with it, they need support where if they're not around it, and they need you to support that. But if you're drinking, it's very difficult for them because they have a problem. And
Yeah.
that to me was not being supportive when that person still drank around them in their house, brought them to situations, barbecues, and all those things where people were drinking, where he needed to be around a space where everybody supported him, especially in the beginning, because he wasn't necessarily ready to or strong enough to do something about it. And I'm not saying everybody has to change their life, but
So did he ask her?
no, but I think I shouldn't say that. I am not sure if he asked her. I'm not certain.
I quit smoking. I'm a smoker. So I obviously quit and started again. But I quit smoking for about 2 years and I quit cold turkey. And the one thing that made it easier for me to quit at that point in time was doing everything I would normally do as a smoker, go out for smoke breaks, walk, whatever it is that I was doing that I would normally have a cigarette, the same habits, I would still do them. And I would even go out with my friends who smoked on breaks in between school. And I would go in there and they'd be like, Melissa, do you want to smoke? And I said, no, I'm quitting. And they'd be like, really? I mean, no, I'm good. But continue on with what you're doing, right? And I actually found that being around it and being able to say no while being around it was more empowering for me. But again, it's everybody's different, right? So it's in that situation, it's asking if I had an addict of a partner, I'd be like, okay, if depending on what the addiction is, right? Obviously, if it's drugs, it's not going to be in the house anyway. Because I don't do drugs. Well, other than my Advil and Tylenol, which understandable, but it's questioning them. Like, what do you need? What supports do you need? How can I help you through this? Because it isn't our journey that we're going through. Yes, as a spouse, as a partner, we're going through that as well, but it's their journey. It's their choice, their journey, their ability to change or to take back control of their emotions.
I agree. I guess the people that I grew up around in my life, that was part of the way that the people I knew that wound up in AA, that was something that they had to do, was they had to remove themselves from situations that had that. That was like I think that's the perception that I got, was their way of handling it. So I'm not certain, but it was just so new to that person that I just felt that the best way to help them would be to help them be in situations that were supportive, and not necessarily, again, not saying, oh, I'm sorry, like not pouring, but trying to. I think maybe it's a poor example.
Well, and no, it's a great example, but it's more of an example of helping that's not really helping, right? Because that's how you would do it.
I guess that's how I've seen people be successful.
Yeah.
Was, not going to the bar, not being in situations where, especially in the beginning, until they got through a certain point, and then they were fine to be around it and not have to worry about it. And I've seen people who at some point decide they thought that the non-alcoholic beer was going to be the answer, like that would help them. And then they slipped right back. And these were people who almost like became belligerent. They weren't nice people when they were drinking. So, it changed their personality. And that was part of the reason that they needed to do something.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. But again, like we said, right? Everybody has a different variation of what they need. And
Right.
the biggest thing for the entire episode is just knowing how to ask. Right.
I think that's, I learned something in this conversation is to not jump up and help, because I definitely am somebody who always looks to help people. What do you need? What can I do? Things like that. And I think asking is super important.
Yep. And boundaries. Boundaries is another one. For the person doing the helping too, you said not to automatically get up and jump to help. It's also when not to ask, right? For some of us, we have that innate sense of, I have to help everybody. I want to help everybody. And you're drawn to helping everybody. So you see anybody in need and you're like, I want to help you. I want to help you. Right. But there has to be that boundary of, I can't help everybody. I'm not meant to help everybody. Right. And there's going to be people that we want to help who aren't ready to change or aren't ready for anybody to help them in whatever
Right.
situation they're going through. Right. So some tips and tricks. Let's get into that. And I'm in a mid episode promo. And of course, we're promoting you because you are a Pinterest strategist and manager. And you actually have in the descriptions a success checklist for Pinterest. So tell us quickly about that. What's that all about?
So that's for someone who maybe they have a Pinterest account or they don't, and they're just trying to get it started, and it gives them best practices. It kind of goes through the places that they need to pay attention to, and it really gets them so that their account is optimized right from the start. And if it's something they're trying to refresh, they can use that to help them kind of revamp it so that it becomes more optimized and that it can help them to drive traffic to their offer.
Amazing. That sounds great. I'm going to have to look into that myself. So for anybody watching, catching the replay, listening to the podcast, please go and like and follow and share on whatever social media platforms you're active on. We have accounts on all of them at Just Alive TV. If you want to connect with either myself or Jen, please do so. Our links are in the descriptions. You can also reach out to us on the website, www.justalivetv.com. And we actually have a Facebook group, giving you something to talk about live TV, where you can come in and engage with some of our co-hosts and myself. So get involved in that. I like that. That's pretty wicked. Okay. So tips and tricks on how to really help. My number one is going to be listening. So my number one is listening and intuitively, if they're not vocalizing it to you, if they are vocalizing it to you, listen to what they're saying, listen to what they need. If they are not vocalizing what kind of help they need, ask. So ask and listen is hand in hand my number one tip for actually helping somebody rather than hindering. What do you think?
I guess I would say my number one tip would be to look for ways to support without being necessarily like overbearing and feeling that you need to do something, that you have to step in. Show that person that you think needs your help, that you're there to support them. So that let them try something on their own. It's okay if they fall down, because you know what, they can just pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and know that you're there to support them and give them what they need in that direction. Kind of like what we said earlier, to ask them. And I think sometimes when we ask, it doesn't mean that we have to do, it just means that we need to be there to support them.
Yeah. I'd say we don't need to broadcast when we're helping.
Absolutely.
Even in family situations, you don't need to go to your brother and say, oh my goodness, did you hear what I did for this person? Like, they don't need, look what I did. I'm so great. That's like a narcissist behavior. And trust me, I was raised by one. So
And
we don't do that. That's manipulative.
I see that all the time. I find that people do things and they look for ways to make sure you know that they did something or all that they do, and they do all these things. And it's almost like, good for you. But it doesn't come, for me, it comes across as not genuine, because if there is no reason to pat yourself on the back, just do something that makes you feel good. Helping others always feels good. Giving is always an amazing feeling.
My grandmother was horrible for that. She was a very manipulative old woman. And she would be like, she'd look at you and she'd be like, you know, this person would do it for me. She'd be like, you know, your brother would do it for me. And I'm like, okay, so why aren't you asking him then? And I wouldn't be rude about it. Well, I kind of would, but and that was just, we had a different relationship as well. But I'd be like, okay, if you're going to throw that in my face, then why aren't you asking them instead of me? I didn't play that game. I have never, in my 38 years, have I ever, in the family that I grew up with, played that game of this person would do it for me. This person wouldn't do it for me. It's boundaries. That's why I mentioned boundaries, is because if you don't feel good helping somebody, if you don't want to feel pressured into helping somebody, that's not going to be a healthy help. That's going to be either hindering yourself or hindering them, because it's not a genuine intention.
And I think that if you're doing things to the point where you're stretching yourself too thin and you're always last, which as a parent, sometimes that's difficult. But I think there are many times where we need to I think we're better people when we can give ourselves a little bit of grace and give ourselves a little bit of self-care, because I think then it gives us more energy to do the things that make us happy. And if helping makes you happy, that's great. And there was something else I wanted to say to that. Sometimes, and don't always do something for somebody with an expectation of getting something in return. Always do something with no expectations.
Yeah. If an agreement's put into place, great. But yeah, the expectation of, and that actually brings me to one of the things that I've talked about. If you move, and again, when I say these things, I'm talking general, not just Jen, but anybody listening, is if you have a scheduled date that you're going to move houses, and your friend is going to move, whoever it is, your friend, your family, your loved one, whoever is moving, and they say, hey, you know, we're going to have pizza and beer, come and help us for the day, please. Right. And you're like, absolutely. You're the help friend. You're like, right on. I'll bring my partner. We'll come, we'll help for the day. We'll hang out and do whatever you need. Right. If you turn around and 6 months later, a year later, you're the one moving, and you do the same thing and you say, hey, you know, we're moving, we'll do pizza and beer, come and help, we'll hang out. If that person says no, you can't hold anything against them.
No.
Right? They do not have to reciprocate in kind if they're not that person. Sometimes, right? Like, I don't want to help everybody move. I will, if I feel inclined, if I'm feeling okay, I absolutely will. But for the most part, I'm not going to put aside everything else that I have to do to spend an entire day helping somebody move. And I find a lot of relationships, not a lot of, but some of the relationships I've had, it's, well, I did this for you. And I'm like, you were willing to do that. I'm not willing to do that.
Right.
Like, I don't know. That's not me. I don't, you know, you have to be able to say no, and non-guiltily say no. That's one of the things, right? You, with boundaries, with what you just said, it's, you have the ability to say no
without having an excuse. Like, it's okay for me. I always find that it's okay to just say no. Oh, sorry, I can't help you. Or no, I can't. Oh, you don't have to add because I have XYZ. You don't need to give a backstory to something because it's fine to say no.
Yeah.
Like you said, that boundary is important. And you don't always have to give a reason of why.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like it. Like you said,
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I don't wanna. There are, and I was talking about my husband about that the other day, is I said, if I say no, if I make changes or say no, what is that going to do for the relationships that I've created? Am I burning bridges? Am I doing this? And he's like, it shouldn't. And I said, but it does.
And he's right. It shouldn't.
No,
because
absolutely.
I'm sure you've been there in other ways, and everybody has
Yep.
their own way to be there for somebody. It's not always a physical doing or an emotional doing. It could be one or the other. It could be both, but everybody has their own expectation of what they can give. That's not, expectation isn't right, but their own capacity of what they can give to others.
Yep. Their comfort, right?
Right.
And but society is that way that now, though. If you say no to somebody, you're horrible.
And you better have a really good reason of why you can't do something.
Okay, I'm gonna go there, and I've hinted at it, and I haven't gone there yet. So for everybody watching the show, I do pre-screening interviews. Jen's done it with me. She knows what they're like, right? They're not horrible. They're not painful. They're pretty easygoing. I tell you about the show. I tell you what I expect, what you can expect. And once I'm done this like 5-10 minute spiel, I go, so tell me about you. Tell me what you're passionate about, right? And I want to hear it. Yeah. So I used to not record them. I record them now because I had a horrible interview, and I don't hold anything against this person at all. They felt what they felt. They believed what they believed. I didn't defend myself or anything. There was no point. And so I had this meeting. The meeting started with them critiquing the fact that my bed wasn't made, critiquing how my video was. They watched a couple minutes of one of my very first videos where I said I don't like being on camera and I don't like my face pictures or listening to myself, but I'm still doing it and I'm having fun doing it. And they turned around and they were telling me about their topics. Now, one of the biggest things is this show has to be a back and forth. If you and I don't vibe, if I don't feel like we vibe, I will say no to doing the show. If you don't feel like we vibe, you say no to doing the show. Oh, do you have to go?
No, I just, all of a sudden, every phone, like my work, I'm like, what is going on here? So I'm just closing it. I'm like, leave me alone.
Maybe they're watching and they're like, oh my God, you're on TV.
So I apologize. I'm trying to shut it up and make it go away.
I got kid interruptions, so we're all good. So anyway, this person got very, I didn't feel like we vibed. You like the minute we got on, you're critiquing everything. I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for help. I wanted to do the pre-screening interview to make sure we vibed for the show. One, I didn't feel like we vibed. Great person, great personality, great, hype. And I really liked that. I really liked their topics. And I said that. I said, but what I'm looking for, I'm just not finding. I'm not finding that pinpoint topic that I feel like I can get behind, right? I have to be able to get as passionate about your topic as you are to make that episode work. And so I had to say no. And I went downstairs and I started talking to my husband. I said, guaranteed, there's going to be a poster video about this interview. And they're like, no. And I said, I guaranteed. And I didn't have
about the kind of person
I didn't have it recorded. 20-minute live on how I didn't build rapport. I didn't validate their passion topics, nothing. And I even said in the interview, and again, it's hearsay because I didn't record it. I flat out said, I like you. I like your topics. I'm just not feeling them. You know, you're great, but right. I'm not feeling them. And it horrible experience on their part. And I felt bad, but at the same time, I had to say
you made the right decision, because it speaks to their character and how, you know, there was no reason to do that, in my opinion, because I don't think what they did helps anybody else in the future. And it doesn't mean that they had to help anybody, but things like that just irritate me, like that you would do something. I look at it as your small business, and let's look at it from that perspective. Why would you do something to hurt somebody else? You don't get anything from hurting somebody else.
Like I said, I have no hard feelings. They didn't name me by name. They didn't name the show or anything else. But if anybody on their list or who saw the video had done one of the pre-screening interviews or watched an episode, will know exactly who and what she's talking about, because of the way it's worded. And like I said, I don't hold any ill will. I wish them the best. Everybody and anybody that I've said no to or will say no to in the future, it's nothing against them. It's nothing against what their topic is or the type of person they are, or there's just something that doesn't sit well with me. And that's on me, because it's my feeling. I have to decide, is this okay for me? Is this not okay for me? I'm not speaking on you. I'm speaking on myself. And it isn't my responsibility to make sure that everybody else is happy.
Exactly. Right? The responsibility. I love that.
Yeah. I always, and that goes hand in hand with the expectations and the boundaries. It is not my responsibility to be who you want me to be, say what you want me to say, act the way you want me to act, behave the way you want me to behave, and make sure that you're fully taken care of. That's not my responsibility. That's an individual, unique identity thing. What do I need? I don't know what you need. I may do something for you that's not what you need, and then I get in trouble for doing it because that's what you expect, right? That's, again, helping, not helping. Is I will do the best that I can do. I will do what you ask me to within reason, with my boundaries firmly in place, because that's my responsibility, is me.
Right. I like that.
Right.
I really like that, because I think when we try
that's why I'm always saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think sometimes when we try to do something, and if we don't have that boundary, it just kind of like depletes us, and it almost like depletes you to the core when you do it and you're just doing it to support somebody else in a way or do something for them. And it just doesn't feel good to you. And I'm not saying that everything has to feel good, but there has to be the boundary so that you stay like intact, if you will. That's probably a poor choice of words, but
you always, it doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what your beliefs are. You always have to make sure you're your own number one priority. Nobody else is going to do that for you. Right. And like we said about kids earlier, we need to teach them that. You have to be your number one priority. I will always be here to support you. I will always be here to love you, but I'm not going to fix the mistakes you choose to make.
Right. Learn from them and let's move on.
Yep. What do they say? I was talking to somebody about this, and I can't remember if it's an upcoming episode or what, but there was a comment that I heard, and I pulled it apart. I absolutely pulled it apart, because that's what I enjoy doing. And it was a wise man once said, a smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from others' mistakes.
So basically, the wise person watches what somebody else does, the mistake that they do, and learn from somebody
And
else's
learns from
mistake to avoid
Yes.
or tweak whatever they did and do it in a different way so that they don't make that same mistake. Interesting.
Okay. So I'm analytical as hell to a fault. So I picked apart that statement, and it's a great statement. If you take it as a blanket statement, it's a great statement. But if you think along the lines of, we are all unique and individual, we all have different paths, different responses, different reactions, learning from somebody else's mistake, if I went and did the exact same thing in the exact same way that they did, I might do it differently.
And the outcomes may still be different.
The outcome may be different, right? So it's just so I love the statement, but at the same time, I'm like, it's not correct though, because we can't learn. If we learn from other people's mistakes, what are we hiding? What are we stopping ourselves from doing that may be life-changing? Look at creating electricity. If somebody looked and said, oh, you're just going to get electrocuted for playing with lightning, we wouldn't have electricity.
Right. He had to take a few shocks in order to give us light.
Exactly. Right. So you think about it, some of the most transformational things Steve Jobs was fired from Apple,
which is his own company,
and then ended up being
what they needed to put them back on the map. If they didn't bring him back, there would be no iPhone. He is the reason.
And I love my Apple products. Like
he is, if it wasn't for his ingenuity and his creative thinking, who knows?
Yeah, but everybody thought he was crazy.
And
right?
Sometimes maybe crazy is what works.
Oh, I know I'm crazy. I will fully admit I'm crazy. And if for anybody watching or anybody catching the replay or listening to the podcast, if you keep watching me, you're going to transform. You're going to transform. One of my longest friends, when I was 16 years old, so 22 years ago, he came up to me and I was struggling with my self-esteem, super struggling with my self-esteem. And he turned to me and he said, you continue hanging out with me and my crew, you will have more self-esteem. You'll be renting it out.
Oh, I like that.
And I will never forget that. Never forget that. And all it was, he didn't do anything for me. He didn't give me anything. He supported me. That's all he did. And I will never
put you around supportive people.
Absolutely. And I thrived in that scenario. I thrived. Those were, and those were some of the best times of my life. It was fun. It was free. I probably didn't do the greatest things at that point, but it was, again, I was a teen. So life happens.
You felt good about yourself. And that's the people you need in your life, is the people that make you feel good.
That's this show. Right. And that's what I give to the show. That's what I give to my clients, is that confidence. I am renting it out, but instead of renting it out, I'm helping you create your own. Right. I had a co-host so terrified to do the episode with me, freaking out beforehand. And I'm like, I got you. We're good. Right. Like, don't worry. I got you. Meet me 10 minutes before, we'll have a chat. So she comes on. She's like, how are you so calm? Like, you're so good at this. I said, I'm not. I said, I'm freaking out beforehand. I hate being on video. And here I am. I'm still doing it. Right. And it was because this is what's authentic to me. This I thrive. I love having conversations. I love having people like you on who have a topic that society needs to hear, humanity needs to hear, to be better, to do better, and to take accountability for their own actions as parents, as entrepreneurs, as everyday human beings. We need to take accountability for our actions. And in this topic today, it's actually helping people, not because not putting ourselves into it. Yes, we help. And that's a hard topic to unravel. So let me try for a second. When you help somebody, you genuinely want to help them. So you have that component of yourself. But when you help somebody, you need to be helping them the way they need help, right? So you're putting yourself into it, but you're also taking yourself out of it. You're not helping the way you want to help. You're helping the way they need you to help. And that's just, yeah. So.
Which is so important. And I am going to be a better asker because I am, like I said earlier, I am somebody who tries to jump to help. And I think, especially my children, like I'm always like, I'm not a helicopter parent. I'm more like a border collie. Like I'm a herder. Like I like when everybody's home because then I don't have to worry. And my daughter being away at college, I've had to just come to terms with, she's an adult, and I've set her up to make good choices, because I've always told my kids when they would leave the house, I'm always like, make good choices, meaning, and my kids know, no questions asked. If you need a ride home, I don't care what the situation is, I will pick you up. Don't ever get in a car that you shouldn't be getting in. I will pick you up, I will bring you home, and I will not ask. Like, you're not going to get in trouble. I mean, this was from mostly when they were younger. My daughter's 21 now, which is the legal age to drink. So, but the bottom line is, I don't care what it is. You don't get in a car that you shouldn't be getting into. If it's going to put you in a dangerous situation, I will pick you up. No questions asked. And I've told their friends this.
I am absolutely the same way. Absolutely the same way. You need to learn from your mistakes, but if your mistakes are potentially going to cost you your life or put you in danger, I will be there.
Exactly.
No question. No question. I will be there. I might not be happy that you're waking my butt up at 3 a.m., but I will still be there. I will be grumbling and telling you while I'm driving, don't talk to me, bubble, leave me alone. I love you, but shh. And then, and then that's it. But number one thing is just safety, right? Making sure we're safe, making sure they're safe, and allowing that grace for not only ourselves, but for them as well, right?
Exactly. Let them make those mistakes
that
are fixable. Because if we don't make those mistakes, I mean, we've all made mistakes in our past, and what happened, we learned from them. And sometimes we learn from them and still make them again, but you hope to eventually course correct and say, you know what do they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and expecting different results. Let's hope that we kind of stop doing those things so we can have different results.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, is there anything you'd like to add before we end this episode?
I would just like to say that I hope that I shared something positive, but I definitely took away great things, and I'm going to be a better asker. I mean, I've always asked, but I'm going to definitely ask more and become a better listener to what people need, because
there's 3 different ways to listen. I've said that in another, I'm not going to get into that one now, but there are 3 different ways to listen, and 2 of them are toxic. So there's a big thing on listening. Anyway, all right. So let us know what you think. If you want to reach out, you can reach out to myself or Jen through the links in the description. We are here to answer any of your questions and connect if you need to. Jen here is our sponsor of the day. She is a Pinterest strategist and manager. I said that correctly this time. And she has a Pinterest success list pinned in the description. You can get the link there. You can go and download it. You can check her out on her website and get some help with Pinterest, because Pinterest is where it's at. I like Pinterest. I was on Pinterest today. Coconut chocolate cookies. Just give me some coconut chocolate cookies while I was shopping. I'm like, I need Pinterest. If I want to get my nails done, Pinterest. All of it. I scroll Pinterest.
Love it.
Scroll recipes.
All right.
Thank you very much, Jen, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Take
All right,
care.
just a family. That is the end of our episode today. If you would like to be a part of the show by being a co-host, by having a topic featured, or by sponsoring an episode, please reach out to me at www.justalivetv.com. You can find us, you can like, subscribe, and share on all of our multiple social media platforms. And if you would like to subscribe to our newsletter, you'll get to know when we go live and what's upcoming next. We've got coming soon, we've got some merch, and we're going to be going live straight from our website. So that's something upcoming really soon. That'll be on the homepage. So I'm really excited for that. All right. Well, lots of love, Just a Family. Check us out, join, subscribe. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next episode.